We take an in-depth look at the trades LA Kings GM Rob Blake has made on this edition of Locked On LA Kings.
You are Locked On Kings, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Kings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey Kings fans, welcome to Locked On LA Kings, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. We are free and available to you wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube as well. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. On today's episode of Locked On LA Kings, we look at the trades past and present since Rob Blake has taken over as Kings general manager. And has started running the team. We'll give him a grade on the trades that he has made so far in his tenure. I'm Eddie Garcia. I'm your host for Locked On LA Kings. I've worked in sports media for almost 30 years. For the past 20 plus years, I've been at the Fox Sports Radio Network, where I'm a co-host, sidekick, reporter, and NHL analyst. I'm also co-host of the Puck Podcast, a weekly NHL review show that's been putting out content for the past 16 years, and also, of course, a lifelong LA Kings fan. Hall of Fame defenseman Rob Blake was promoted to LA Kings general manager from assistant GM on April the 10th of 2017, taking over for Dean Lombardi, who had rebuilt the team and guided a franchise that went on to win their first two Stanley Cups in team history. Then they would fall off and win just one playoff game in the next three seasons, and that prompted a change. We're looking at Rob Blake's major trades that he has made since he's taken over as general manager. We're going to talk more about the signings that he's made in his time as GM, the re-signings, the free agent signings, and the players he didn't decide to re-sign, and look at how that decision has gone. But today we're just focusing on the major trades that Rob Blake has made in his time with the LA Kings. I'm sorry, we are not going to break down that 2018 deal that saw Steven Falkowski get dealt for Pavel Jennings. I have never heard of those two guys in my life, but those type of deals, we're just going to let those slide. But we are going to talk about the first trade Rob Blake ever made as Kings general manager. It occurred on May the 9th of 2017. He shipped off the rights to free agent to be goaltender Ben Bishop to the Dallas Stars for a 2017 fourth-round pick. It turned into defenseman Marcus Phillips, who has yet to play in the NHL and is no longer in the Kings organization. For Ben Bishop, he ended up signing a big deal with the Dallas Stars, gave him three pretty good seasons before he ended up getting hurt. He's not playing anymore, but his contract is still bouncing around somewhere. I think an Eastern Conference team picked up his contract to help out their salary cap issues as far as making the salary cap floor. But Ben Bishop was a solid goaltender for the next 3 years, and you thought maybe the Kings would like to keep him, but they didn't want to pay a lot of money for a backup goalie, and I'm sure Ben Bishop wanted to go somewhere else and be a number one goalie. They had Jonathan Quick already in the fourth year of a 10-year deal at that point, so good on Rob Blake for getting something out of a guy that was gonna walk anyway. That was the first trade ever made by Kings GM Rob Blake involving Ben Bishop on May the 9th of 2017. The next major trade for Rob Blake was on February 13th of 2018. The Kings acquired veteran defenseman Dion Phaneuf along with forward Nate Thompson from the Ottawa Senators in exchange for forward Marian Gaborik and forward Nick Shore. Now, the Senators and the Kings didn't know that Marian Gaborik only had 16 games of hockey left in him. He must have passed his physical when he went to Ottawa to complete that trade, but it was a fortuitous deal for the LA Kings because they got a couple of serviceable seasons from Dion Phaneuf. Nothing great there, but they ended up getting 3 more years of Marian Gaborik's contract off of their books. That Ottawa was on the hook for because he was injured and didn't play for them. So a fortunate deal for the LA Kings as far as the timing of that one. On February 21st of 2018, in my opinion, the worst trade that Rob Blake has been involved in. On that date, the LA Kings sent goaltender Darcy Kemper, yes, he was a former King, very briefly, to the Arizona Coyotes for forward Tobias Reeder and goaltender Scott Wedgwood. Neither Reeder nor Wedgwood are in the Kings organization anymore. Wedgwood, I think, is a depth goalie with the Dallas Stars at this point. But Kemper went on to just become a Stanley Cup winning goalie this year with the Colorado Avalanche, and he parlayed that into a 5-year, $26.25 million deal with the Washington Capitals. Of course, hindsight's always 2020, but consider that Darcy Kemper, in his brief time with the Kings, had a record of 10-1-3. 19 games for the Kings. He had a 2.10 goals against average and a 932 save percentage. Those are all great numbers. And he had been a backup and bounced around a little bit in the NHL with the Minnesota Wild at that point. And he had never shown himself to be a number one goalie, but he did show himself to be a pretty competent backup. And certainly in his time with the Kings, looked like a goalie that could be a very solid backup to Jonathan Quick and maybe at some point be the heir apparent in net. But apparently the Kings thought, you know what, this guy's having a career year. Let's get something out of him while he's hot because he's not going to be this good. They ship him off to Arizona for a couple of players that ended up not doing much for the Kings. And Darcy Kemper, while he did not have a good win-loss record in his time in Arizona, he always had a great save percentage and a decent goals against average, even on a bad team. And eventually, when he did get on a good team in Colorado, he backstopped them to a Stanley Cup title. Now, he's not an elite goalie, but he is clearly a number one goalie. And if you think, would you rather have Darcy Kemper right now over Cal Peterson? The answer for me is absolutely 100% yes. So, again, the Kings' thinking at the time, I believe, was that they didn't see Darcy Kemper as a legitimate number one goalie at some point. And they thought, let's get something out of him while he's hot. It turned out to be the wrong decision. Darcy Kemper has turned out to be a very competent goaltender. And, who knows how it plays out if he stays with the Kings. But, it's hard not to think, would you like to have Darcy Kemper as the heir apparent to Jonathan Quick after this season and be a very good backup goalie? I think the answer is yes. So if you're going to pick a trade that Rob Blake was involved in that turned out to be a pretty bad trade, I think that would have to be the deal. The next trade happens to be Rob Blake's best trade, in my opinion. That was January 28th of 2019. The Kings shipped out defenseman Jake Muzzin to the Toronto Maple Leafs for forward Carl Grundstrom, defenseman Sean Durzi, and a 2019 first-round pick that turned into defenseman Tobias Bjornfoot. We got an email from Michael on this trade on Friday. He thought it was Rob Blake's best trade, and I agree with him. You ship out Jake Muzzin, who I thought was a bit overrated. He's an okay defenseman. He's been injury-prone in his time in Toronto. You get back three young players that have all turned into, I believe, starters for next season. Carl Grundstrom, I think, is turning into a very solid power forward. I think he's going to start on the right wing on the Kings' fourth line this year. We'll see if that turns out to be the case or not. Sean Durzi, I believe, will start on the third pairing on defense for the Kings, and I think he's going to probably quarterback the second power play unit behind Drew Doughty. And Tobias Bjornfoot has turned into a reliable, hopefully improving defensive defenseman that will play on the Kings' second pairing. So all these guys should get better as time goes along. Again, getting rid of Jake Muzzin for three good young players for the future, I think that's probably the best deal that Rob Blake has made so far. On February 5th of 2020, another deal involving the Kings and the Toronto Maple Leafs when goalie Jack Campbell and forward Kyle Clifford were sent off to the Leafs for forward Trevor Moore, a 2020 third-round pick that turned into Alex Laferriere, who's playing at Harvard right now, and a 2021 conditional pick that the Kings would end up trading away. Jack Campbell is kind of like Darcy Kemper. He was a backup briefly with the Kings, looked like he was a decent backup, former first-round pick of the Dallas Stars, and eventually got his opportunity in Toronto, made the most of it, and has parlayed that into a nice big contract as the number one goalie for the Edmonton Oilers now this year. So would I prefer to have Jack Campbell as the Kings' backup goalie and eventually the heir apparent to Jonathan Quick over Cal Peterson? At this point, the answer for me is yes. But the Kings did get in return Trevor Moore, who's turned into a very reliable second-line left winger. We'll see if Alex Laferriere turns into be a player who's at Harvard right now. If he does, that'll make this trade look a little bit better. But all in all, not a terrible trade for the LA Kings. February 17th of 2020, the Kings sent forward Tyler Toffoli to the Vancouver Canucks for forward Tim Schaller, forward Tyler Madden, a 2020 second-round pick, and a 2022 conditional fourth-round pick. The Kings would end up trading both of those picks, so they didn't turn into players for the Kings. Tyler Madden is a good-looking forward in the Kings system with the Ontario Reign. He could turn into an NHL player at some point. Tyler Toffoli is only 30 years old, and he was a kind of a beloved guy who obviously won a Stanley Cup in LA. It's kind of hard to see him go. But if you look at the Kings left wingers now, you've got Adrian Kempe, you've got Victor Arvidsson. You could argue that they're at least as good, if not better, than Tyler Toffoli. So that trade, we'll see if Tyler Madden turns into a player. that would make that trade look a lot better. But understand at the time, Rob Blake was looking to shed some of the veteran players and their salaries and bring in assets in return, and that's what he did with the Tyler Toffoli deal. February 19th of 2020, the Kings shipped off defenseman Alec Martinez to the Vegas Golden Knights for a second-round pick in 2020 and a second-round pick in 2021. The Kings ended up trading away both of those picks, so they didn't specifically turn into players. Hard to see Alec Martinez go, obviously another beloved member of the Stanley Cup winning teams and those great goals he had in overtime. But again, under the circumstances, rebuilding, looking to bring in assets for older players, you can understand that deal. October 7th of 2020, the Kings acquire forward Lias Andersson from the New York Rangers for a 2020 second-round pick. That would turn into left winger Will Cooley, who is yet to play in the NHL. He's in the Rangers organization. We'll see if he turns into a player or not. I am not a fan of Lias Andersson. I've told you guys this before. I don't think he's ever going to turn into a legitimate player. If he does, it won't be with the LA Kings, in my opinion, because I just don't think he's going to get the ice time and the chance to prove it. But he was a top 10 pick from the Rangers. Didn't work out there. They decided it's not happening here. Let's move on from him. Let's get something in return for this guy. The Kings, at the time, I understand the gamble. They think, hey, maybe a change of scenery is just what this guy needs. He was a top 10 pick. He's got the talent. Maybe he comes here and he turns into a player. Hasn't happened, hasn't been the case. So that was a roll of the dice that I understood at the time, taking a risk, but that one did not obviously end up paying off at this point for the Kings, and I don't think it's going to pay off at some point down the road. April the 11th of 2021, the Kings sent forward Jeff Carter to the Pittsburgh Penguins for a conditional 2022 third-round pick and a fourth-round pick in 2023. Again, the Kings traded both those picks away. Sometimes you get picks in return, and they don't specifically turn into players with those picks, but you move those picks to move up in a draft or get other considerations. And so, in the end, how it leads and how it turns out, sometimes it's hard to track those things down. But another veteran player, beloved player with the Kings, helped them win the Stanley Cup. It's hard to see him go, but when you're rebuilding, you want to shed those veteran salaries and bring in assets in return. July the 1st of 2021, the Kings get forward Victor Arvidsson from the Nashville Predators for a second-round pick in 2021. They would end up, the Predators, trading that pick away. And also a fourth-round pick in 2023. The Predators traded that pick away as well. The Penguins, not the Predators. Wait a minute. I think I mixed up Jeff Carter and Victor Arvidsson. Victor Arvidsson came from Nashville for a second-round pick in 2021 and a third-round pick in 2022. And again, Nashville did trade away both of those picks. Finally, on June the 29th of 2022, the Kings get forward Kevin Fiala, at least the rights to him, from the Minnesota Wild, forward defenseman Brock Faber, and a 2021 first-round pick that the Wild used to select left winger William Ogren. We'll see if he turns out to be a player or not. Brock Faber is going to be an NHL-level defenseman at some point in his career. But when you look at the Kings' young defensemen and where they stack right now, I think you could make the argument that Brock Faber is probably fifth on that list. I think the list could go something like Sean Durzi, Tobias Bjornfoot, Jordan Spence, Brant Clark, and then Brock Faber. So again, the Kings have plenty of options as far as young defensemen. And even though, by all accounts, it looks like Brock Faber will turn into a fine NHL-level defenseman at some point, it's probably not going to be for a couple of years. And again, the Kings have plenty of other players that can take that spot. And the Kings needed to upgrade their top-line left-wing position. Now they did that with Kevin Fiala. I think the Victor Arvidsson trade and the Kevin Fiala trade, both good trades for Rob Blake. So those are the major trades Rob Blake has made in his time as Kings general manager. I think overall a very solid job by Rob Blake. The Darcy Kemper trade you could quibble with. The Jack Campbell deal maybe as well. When you look at maybe a solid goaltender to back up Jonathan Quick and be the heir apparent. But all in all, if you want to give Rob Blake a grade on the trades, again, this is just the trades he's made. We're going to talk tomorrow about the signings, re-signings, and signings he didn't make over his tenure, and we'll give him a grade for that as well. But I'd give Rob Blake a very solid B. I think you could give him maybe even a B+. I don't think it's an A, but it's a solid B in my opinion. I think Rob Blake's done a very good job for the LA Kings, rebuilding the organization, acquiring assets, getting legitimate NHL caliber players. So I'm very pleased with the job Rob Blake has done. If you have any thoughts, if you feel differently, we can read some emails on Friday's show when we read listener feedback. The email address is lockedoneddie, EDDIE, @gmail.com. So there's the grade for Rob Blake as GM as far as the trades he's made since he's taken over as GM, and I give him a very solid B in that regard. I want to tell you about something that I literally use every day. It's called AG1. And I've been taking it because, well, I'm over 50, I'm 52, and sometimes I need a little more energy. And with one delicious scoop of AG1, you are absorbing 75 high quality vitamins, minerals, whole foods, source superfoods, probiotics, and antigens to help you start your day right. This special blend of ingredients support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, your energy, recovery, focus, and aging. AG1 contains less than 1 gram of sugar. It costs you less than $3 a day, cheaper than your morning coffee or your after work brew habit. And you're investing in your health. Athletic Greens has over 7,000 5-star reviews and is even recommended by professional athletes. Now's the time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just one scoop in a cup of water every day, and that's it. No need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free supply for 1 year of immune supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. And again, that is athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up your ultimate daily nutritional insurance. On Friday's show, we talked about the LA Kings' biggest rival and what team that you love to hate. And I kind of intended it to be kind of one question, but I also said there's no right or wrong answer. And some people turned it into a two-part question, which is perfectly fine as far as I'm concerned. For example, we had this from @RobBlakeBurner. He said that the Sharks are our biggest rival, but Vegas is the team I love to hate. And I think a lot of people kind of echoed that opinion as well. And that's not a wrong answer, like I said. My wife, by the way, is a big Kings fan, and her most hated team is the Vegas Golden Knights. And I think maybe some of that stems from jealousy a little bit in that they've gotten so good so quick. And I think a lot of people resent their fan base and how arrogant they are because we feel like they haven't earned that right? You know what I mean? They just kind of, they lucked into this. They had that expansion draft and the NHL, the rest of the NHL didn't know how to handle it. And to their credit, they ended up putting a good roster together and having a terrific first season where they went all the way to the Stanley Cup final, which I don't think we'll ever see again in professional sports, a expansion team going to the championship in the first year. But just judging kind of non-scientifically is what I was able to tabulate. According to our people that chimed in on the Twitter poll question, the San Jose Sharks are either the biggest rival or the most hated for the LA Kings. And then second was the Anaheim Ducks and then the Vegas Golden Knights. And that was a clear top three. All of the rest, there were a few other votes, but they were all distant fourths. It was almost all Sharks, Ducks, or Golden Knights. As a matter of fact, we had a tweet from @TCrotty101 who gave 3 different levels and tiers of hated rivals. And his top tier 1, was the one that most people agreed with completely: Sharks, Ducks, and Golden Knights. Tier 2, he had the Flames and Oilers. And Tier 3, he had Blackhawks, Red Wings, Canucks, and Blues. So we had, I think it was 17 votes for the Sharks, 13 for the Ducks, and 10 for the Vegas Golden Knights. Again, they were clearly the top 3 of the most hated teams for the LA Kings, or who you thought the biggest rival was of the LA Kings. Hey, I don't know if you know or care, but I play beer league hockey twice a week. I love it, but sometimes I need a little extra boost when I go play. I don't want to eat a meal; it'll bog me down. So what I do is I reach for a Built Bar, specifically the new cookie dough chunk puff Built Bar. It is a real cookie with chunks of cookie dough covered in 100% real chocolate. And you think, well, this can't be good for you. Well, you're wrong. It actually is. Built Bar is made with collagen proteins, which your body absorbs more efficiently and also helps you to get a ton of health benefits. Why not eat something that tastes good and is good for you? Go to Built.com and snag a box for yourself or to share with your family. Whether you need a snack for your workout or a late night treat or just want to grab a quick bite, Built is the perfect protein bar that tastes great, even better than a candy bar. Ditch the calories, fat, and sugar. Grab yourself a Built Bar. Go to Built.com and use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off your order. Again, that is promo code LOCKED15. The LA Kings announced today their promotional calendar, and I'm going to whip through this real quick just to let you know, again, just getting you ready and fired up for the upcoming season. So here is the list of themed games and promotional highlights for the LA Kings. October 11th against Vegas, you got opening night. They're giving away silver pom-poms, by the way, if you're interested in that. October 25th against Seattle is Armenian Heritage Night. October 27th against Winnipeg, Grateful Dead Night. You've got October 29th against Toronto, Dia de los Muertos Night, obviously tying that in with Halloween. They're giving away a T-shirt that night. November 5th against Florida is Native American Heritage Night. November 8th against Minnesota is LA Chargers Night. I'll be there for that because my wife is a gigantic Chargers fan. November 10th against the Blackhawks is Hockey for Heroes. I think that has to do with veterans and military folks. November 12th against Detroit is Hockey Fights Cancer. November 27th against Ottawa is Kids Day. Kids get a coloring book and crayons for that. November 29th against Seattle, We Are All Kings Night. December 1st against Arizona is Ontario Rain Night. December 17th against San Jose, Season Ticket Members Appreciation Night. I thought that was usually the last game of the year. On December the 20th, you've got Anaheim Freeway Face-Off Night. They give away a car flag for that. December 22nd against Calgary is Holiday Game Night, which is Christmas Day, basically. They're giving away a beanie on that night. December 31st against Philadelphia is New Year's Eve Glow Night. They're giving out crowns and glow sticks. January 5th against Boston is LA Lakers Night. January 9th against Edmonton is Canadian Heritage Night. January 14th against New Jersey, LA Dodgers Night. January 19th against Dallas, Filipino Heritage Night. On February 11th against Pittsburgh is the Dustin Brown Retirement Night. Definitely got to be there for that one. February 13th against Buffalo is Black History Month game. February 18th against Arizona is Star Wars Night. I'm a Star Wars nerd, so I might show up for that one. I'll probably go to most of these games. March 2nd against Montreal, LA Galaxy Night, and Japanese Heritage Night. Apparently we couldn't split those up into separate nights. I don't know. March the 4th against St. Louis is Gender Equality Night. We have March 11th against Nashville, Zippy Paws Night, and Indian Heritage Night. Again, we couldn't split those up. That is Zippy Paws apparently is, like pet appreciation. They're giving away a dog toy. On March the 14th against the Islanders is Pi Day. It's spelled P-I. Did they leave off the E? I would be interested in Pi Day for a delicious, pastry, but I don't know what Pi Day is. I guess I'm over my head on that one. March 14th against Columbus is St. Patrick's Day night and Irish Heritage Night, and they're giving away a chalice. I'm guessing to drink your beer out of. I think Patrick's Day. March 18th against Vancouver is Pride Night. They're giving away rainbow tube socks. March 15th against Winnipeg is LA Rams Night. They're giving away a fanny pack. I hear they're making a comeback, but not with me. On March 26th against St. Louis, half of me is very excited about this. It's Mexican Heritage Night. On April 4th against Edmonton, First Responders Night. And April 10th against Vancouver, the final home game of the year, Fan Appreciation Night. Also, for preseason, October 2nd against Anaheim, it's a magnet schedule night. So those are all of your themed nights and your promotional nights for the upcoming season for the Los Angeles Kings. Also, hey, by the way, I want to remind you, the World Junior Championships start tomorrow on Tuesday, and we've got 3 LA Kings prospects participating in that. Helge Grans, a defenseman for Sweden, and also a duo of Finnish players, Kasper Simon Tobel and Samuel Helenius. They're going to be playing tomorrow against Latvia at 3 p.m. Pacific time. If you want to check that out, it's on the NHL Network, as well as streaming for free on Fubo TV and Sling TV, I believe, as well. I'll be watching that game for you, so you don't have to watch it if you don't want to. We'll tell you how those guys do in the tournament, both tomorrow and going forward. Hey, keep up to date on this show and what's going on with the LA Kings. Please follow us on Twitter. We are at Locked On LA Kings. If you would like to send me an email with any comments or thoughts, the email address is lockedoneddie@gmail.com, EDDIE, lockedoneddie@gmail.com. Thank you so much for making Locked On LA Kings your first listen every day. Now make your second listen Locked On NHL. Locked On experts give you a daily 30-minute podcast of all things NHL all year long. Stay up to date on everything in the hockey world with Locked On NHL, your daily 30-minute NHL podcast. Again, thank you so much for listening and for watching on YouTube. I'm Eddie Garcia. This is Locked On LA Kings. As always, our reminder as we close out the show, go Kings go.